It's terrifying to think what would have happened if the student didn't slip up. It was my first year teaching history, so I had no choice but to help chaperone prom. I was walking around along the wall, giving the students their space to have fun, when I noticed two students hiding behind the dark curtains that were hanging from the ceiling. I recognized them immediately. They were both social outcasts that other students often called creepy or weird. They were also known to cause trouble in their classes, and rarely did their assigned work. It looked like they were just standing there, but I had a bad feeling. Sure enough, I could smell the alcohol on them as I got closer. I held out my hand. All right, give it, and either leave on your own, or I'm having the two of you written up. Oh, come on, teach. We know after this you'll be enjoying some Jack with your shepherd and new TV when you get home. Why judge us? My blood went cold. Everything the student said was accurate, but I never shared personal information about my home life. How did he know so much? Though they were both drunk, I could tell from their faces that they said more than they meant to. I stepped closer. How exactly do you know what I do when I get home? What? Don't play dumb. That was way too specific. They both started to back away from me. Look, man, it was just a lucky guess. I grabbed each student by the collar with either hand. These brats were hiding something. My wife had given me a new TV for Christmas. We had an elderly German shepherd at home named Daisy, and every night I enjoyed one glass of Jack Daniels while my wife and I watched TV before bed. Those were three very specific things about my life that I shared with no one. Not on social media, not with other teachers, and especially not with students. If these kids had an eye on my personal life, I needed to know how and why, because if they had eyes on me, then they had eyes on my wife, Olivia. My body started to shake from both anger and fear at the thought of someone watching her. Olivia was still often weak after her chemo treatments and wouldn't be able to defend herself if someone broke in. Daisy could barely walk herself. And I, as a teacher, had an easy-to-find schedule online, so it would be no problem for someone to know when I wasn't home. I shook the students as hard as I could and yelled, "Out with it! Have you two been spying on my house or something?" The students are whimpering and spitting out excuses, but they're obviously lies. They had to be. Another teacher comes up and tells me to let go, and the next thing I know, I'm watching the creeps run out to their car from the principal's office window. The principal is saying something about moral responsibility, but I'm still watching those two, up until their car turns out of view. The principal continues to scold me for another 20 minutes, saying that I must have misheard them. It was a coincidence, and that clearly I said something to someone. I don't say anything. I know I'm right, but I also know I need proof. The principal then says I'll be suspended for 2 weeks and expected to write apology letters to the students in the hopes that their parents won't press charges. The entire way home, I try to come up with ways the students might have spied on me. We don't let strangers into our home, and we live in a busy neighborhood that would notice any unusual cars. I open the front door to find Olivia standing there with a big smile on her face. "Hey, hun, I have your plate fixed and ready to be warmed up." I smile, not wanting to stress her out with thoughts of potential stalkers. "Thank you, but shouldn't you be resting? I've been having a good day. I even went back to that hardware store for gardening." "Sweetie, you really shouldn't be straining yourself. I can pick up things you need." But she continues to assure me that she's fine, and then goes on to tell me about a helpful, though weird kid at the hardware store. I freeze mid-step. The kid who helped her and the student I just busted for drinking were one and the same. I quickly ask her, "What all have you bought from that store?" Olivia lists out mostly gardening supplies, but then adds, "Oh, and I had to get us a new smoke detector for the living room." I threw a chair underneath where the detector sat on the ceiling and pulled it down. With a little help from a hammer, I opened the device and found a small, hidden camera. Olivia's face went white. I immediately called the police. After a big investigation, authorities discovered that the two students were creepy masterminds capable of making these tiny cameras. One of the two worked at a family-owned hardware store and had used his sales position to sell their fake devices to dozens of people. The students had video and audio recordings from people all around town, and the only reason they were caught was that one of them slipped up and said something too specific to the wrong person.